Call Me Zena. I think I have more actually. Well, maybe recent
My name
ones
is Sally Bernard, an artist,
we go.
author, and spiritual experiencer. Welcome to Call Me Zena, a true story into the spiritual realms. Join me as I sit and discuss the journey of self-discovery and awakening with the help of my spirit guides. It's time to trust your intuition. This is your inner knowings. Through questions and points of conversation, I can help others feel empowered. With the ability to touch people's past lives, I help others connect and not feel alone. Sit with me and call in live, 888-994-4995.
Good afternoon, everybody. This show does go out live, so I apologize that we're a few minutes late. Technical difficulties, we can't always control that. Not even me who thinks that I can do this, okay? Just want to say hello, and I want to introduce my husband today. He's here as my co-host, so he's going to introduce himself and a few things that might be going on with the show. Thank you.
Thank you for having me, Sally. And just a couple of quick announcements. If you're watching live, please feel free to call in with your questions at 888-994-4995, Studio A. Or if you're watching on Facebook, please type a message and we'll try and get to it on the air. And I know many of you have been waiting for Sally's new book, and it will be coming. However, Lynn Everhard, shout out to him, host of The Editor's Desk and co-writer with Sally on the book, took very ill, and we wish him a speedy recovery, and then the book will be forthcoming. Okay, but Sally, you and I saw Oppenheimer over the weekend.
Yes, we did.
And as great as the movie is, we saw it perhaps in a little different light than other people might have. Can you explain what I mean by that?
Yes, without going into a whole lot of detail, and also I don't want to spoil the movie for everybody, but he was an amazing person. Unfortunately, he was really ridiculed, and I'm sure people are reading the write-up, so they know that. But he was trying to explain to people what is going on in this world. Because I understand a little bit more, I go into depth a little bit. His message is really good. It's, without going into, I don't want to spoil it for people. I think it's a movie well worth watching. However, people may interpret it slightly differently, but his message was really good. And unfortunately, you know, I think I better stop because I know that I don't like the spoilers on a movie, okay? But go see it. It's a very good movie. And of course, my granddaughter is very friendly with his great-granddaughter, so I had an invested interest in watching the movie, even more so.
Okay. So without spoiling, as genius as Dr. Oppenheimer was, do you think his genius just came naturally, or was it perhaps given to him from a different source?
Well, I believe that he had all the components, so to speak, to understand it. Just as myself, I hear from another, let's say, another dimension. I believe he had that. I'm certain of that. But I mean, I didn't know the man and I don't know too much about him. But the messages that he was receiving to be able to do all the work that he was doing, yes, it might be negative, but unfortunately, we need what his message was in this world. So I believe, and this is just purely my point of view, I don't want people to say, well, you said that he could do this. I don't know. But from what I heard in the movie, I believe that he had a very important message, and I believe that he was being contacted. But I have no way of proving that. So just that's my own personal opinion.
Well, speaking about being contacted, there's been a lot of talk recently in the media about aliens, UFOs, and many people are starting to believe that they are among us. What is your take on that?
Well, if anybody, I'm sure many people that are listening or will be listening, that I have always talked about UFOs and contacts with people, because I myself, and I came forward with this a couple of months ago, and I have to mention you, Freddie, when you heard me first talking about this, his mouth went, oh my gosh, I have been abducted many times. I don't mind telling people today. So I'm not surprised. I'm just going to say it's about time that we started taking this seriously. When I first met you, I didn't say to you, oh, by the way, I'm an abductee, because I have to go into it very carefully. But can you see now the significance of what I was doing? Maybe going back when I first started my show, I came out with the fact that I had been abducted. And I'm getting phone calls from many people today now wanting to hear more of my story. Because for me, and I think we're going to hear more, this is very real. It's very important. I'm not here to tell everybody that they are among us. But for the believers, I have experienced that, if you want to believe that. I have experienced it, and I've been abducted many times.
Well, it's been easier and easier for me to believe and accept everything you've said and things we hear in the news media. And you know, a recent trip we took to the Mayan ruins would suggest that it wasn't just the Mayans themselves that were able to create these structures and build cities. They had to have had help. From beyond.
And I love the fact that you're sitting here co-hosting my show right now, Steve, because 23 years ago when we first met, if I had come out with this, you would have totally, which you kind of did because I didn't explain as much, walk away, right? But over the last, say, 18 months, having heard my story and everything that I had written about in my first book, you kept an open mind, and that's amazing. For me, it's very important. I don't expect even our listeners for everybody to believe this, but I know what I've experienced. I know what I remember. And I came forward with this 18 years ago to say that I had traveled to many different planets. To see it coming out on the main media today, the news stations, the ones that have credibility talking about this, the government now coming, you know, talking about that they are amongst us, okay? Again, I'm not here to tell everybody, believe me, but I'm going to see that there is going to be disclosure very soon of something. People are going to come more forward. There are whistleblowers that have been doing this for a long time. I myself only kind of admitted to it maybe 2 months ago.
Yeah. You know, perhaps for most people, it could be a little difficult to accept what you're saying, but when I, you know, live with you and hear what you say and then receive the validation for many of the things that you've told me and imparted to me, that's what makes it easier and easier to accept. Not to go into all the validation, but every day there's additional validation.
And you know what? And this is so great for me to hear this, Steve, because my friends who have been following now for many years, because I've kind of had access to this for maybe the last 18 years, more and more, they're all saying to me, well, Steve is going to not have to accept it, but he's going to see so much. And I'm going to do my coughing. I don't know why.
Take a sip.
Yes, excuse me. There's something going. Oh, my God. Let's go to Steve. Carry on, okay? Please.
Well.
This is weird.
You okay?
Yes, I'm fine.
All right. Well, as I started to say, over time, many things have happened that give us the validation that everything that you've spoken about is
Thank you.
so.
Thank you. I do believe there's divine intervention going on here because I've been fine the whole day, okay? Okay, guys, stop it, okay? I want to talk about this.
And that's also a very interesting thing because you've also told me that that there are forces out there that want to stop much of what's being spoken about, and they want to take that conversation in a very different direction. And this might be a sample of that.
How else can we explain this? I'm talking about something. I have not sneezed, I have not coughed. The moment my show starts, this is what happens. Again, I don't know for sure, but thank you for bringing that up.
Okay.
It's up to us to believe or believe not.
I got a question. Washington just last week had the debates about UFOs, and it came to the head that even people on Capitol Hill do not have clearance to know the information that's going on. There were 3 individuals that did. I wanted to get your input. Why those 3 are selected by whoever the powers may be, and they didn't say who the powers may be. They have control of this information, but they are no longer denying that UFOs exist now.
That's a really good question, Freddie. From what I'm hearing from my collective too, is that we have to do this gradually. We have to do it like a soft disclosure, so to speak. So they have picked out the people. There are many people with the same story that I'm talking about, but they have picked, I don't know, I'm not aware of that, but they have picked certain individuals to start disclosing. But if we suddenly said they are walking amongst us and all that I know and that I've traveled to different planets, there's going to be chaos here. So I believe, as you're telling me this, and I knew nothing about this, and obviously I didn't know your question, but from what I'm feeling is that they have picked out the people that are going to start to do a soft disclosure. That's what I'm hearing. So if it's 3 or 4 people, there are many, many more people. They may be not able to talk right now because they don't want them to talk, but the ones they've chosen, they're able to talk and talk a little bit about it.
But how is this funded? I mean, Area 51 now they are saying there's nothing there any longer. So they moved whatever was there to another location, which nobody knows except a handful of people.
Right.
But how does this stuff get funded? How do you have, what is it, 50s, 40s, 50s? How do you have all these years of the biggest secret in the history of mankind? Who pays for this? Who funds this?
As far as I know, and I have learned a lot about, well, I also get messages from my guide Aldo, who told me more, but on there is a TV, Gaia TV, that will expose this. It's called the Secret Space Program, where they have what they call the whistleblowers that know more. So they're trying to put it out into the general public. But as far as I know, and I really don't have the answer on how it's funded, but it is being funded because a lot of this money is going into what they're doing. I mean, how are they able to have, and this is, as far as I know, 100% real, the Secret Space Program. It's not just me. I don't want to say I know it's real, but if anybody who is listening that like to know a little bit more, go into Gaia TV. It is like Netflix. You do have to pay every month. There's a subscription. But if you listen, and some of the whistleblowers that are high up in these places, it's not me. I'm a nobody talking about this. But there are names of people that are actually saying what's going on. They're getting the money. It's being funded. I don't know through what channels, but it is being funded.
I think it's a little similar to what we were talking about Oppenheimer in the 40s when they built Los Alamos, New Mexico, from nothing, and spent, I think, $2 billion to get that project underway. I think that the powers that be, if they think there's validity to something, just as they did with the idea of building a weapon of mass destruction, that they'll find a way to fund it and find the best ways to keep it from us.
But Steve, then there was an end game to doing all of that.
Yeah.
There was a reason that they did all of that, which changed the history of the world. I'd just like to know what the reasoning is, why they're doing what they're doing. I mean, all of a sudden they want to live in Mars, right? All of this, in the last, 3 or 4 years, we're headed to Mars. We're going to live on Mars. We're going to build homes on Mars. There has to be an end game.
Yeah, well, I agree, but I don't think the general public knew what the end game was at Los Alamos.
Agreed.
You know, and when the time is right, perhaps we'll know the end game to your question.
And they have to be very careful, Freddie, because there are so many, the majority of people do not even understand this, but they have to do this gradually. I've come out, I don't care at this point, I can only tell you what I've experienced. To me, it's real because I've, you know, and I don't expect most of the people maybe even listening, they're going, I don't know what she's talking about, and that's okay, but I know what I've experienced. I have And I brought this up 18 years ago when I wrote my first book, How I Traveled to Other Planets. Do I expect people to believe it? No, not necessarily, but I know what's happened to me. We have to do a soft disclosure because it will be crazy. Everybody will be in crazy. Now, maybe it's their time, and I don't know, for them to show themselves a little bit more. So we have to show that there is something else going on. There are other planets. We call them aliens because they're off this planet. But if we are aliens too. We're all from, and as far as my belief, we're from other planets. But I believe that the time is right now for us to start a soft disclosure. We need to wake up that we are not the only people on this, we are not the only planet. That's what I want to say. Don't have to believe it, but watch the news, and I'm so happy that it's going on mainstream news, that they are seeing what they call, and they're calling them slightly different, but I still call them UFOs, other things that they can't explain. Maybe there's 100 they've seen, maybe there's only 30 that they cannot explain, but that 30 means something. We need to open our minds up to there's more. If I can help people or anybody that wants to ask questions on this, I can only tell you what I've experienced, and I have experienced it.
Sally, when you speak about your collective, is the makeup of your collective all your spirit guides, or might some of them be of aliens?
Well, I actually, and I don't mind talking about it, I have what they call the, I have a collective of the, oh my God, there's something coming in that's stopping me from saying this. But I have, my spirit guides help me tremendously. But the Galactic Federation, I heard that name. And I've since, when I've come forward with the Galactic Federation, I've heard more. And actually, I started watching Star Trek, because that's where they are too. And Star Trek had such great meaning to me. You wouldn't imagine that I would be so interested in all this and watch Star Trek. But through the last few years, I have watched it and understand it. There's so much they are keeping from us. However, there's so much that they are disclosing, but only so much. We can't prove it, we can't disprove it. So I have a few collectives helping me here.
Okay.
Hey, Sally.
Hi.
Been on Z3 now. How are you?
I'm good.
So what I was gonna ask was, I'm trying to remember. Like say something's wrong with our body's physical self, we can just go see a doctor.
Right.
If we have problems with our head, we can probably go see a doctor as well too. I don't know where I'm trying to go to, but what can we learn from the spirit realm of things?
In other words, if you're wanting to know what may be wrong with you and not necessarily conventional doctors, that we want to go beyond that.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay. Again, it's hard to explain, Josh, but I often talk about our own intuition. It's really important. If you feel that maybe something is going wrong with your body, and I visit my doctor very rarely, as Stephen will attest to, okay, and he says to me, but I also do know, and I get messages that maybe I should work on some part of what may be hurting to go to a conventional doctor, because they're here. I do not want to tell people don't go to your doctors, but they're also here to guide us and help us from the spiritual realm. So just as you can receive messages, they will tell you what's going on with your body and what you need to know. So we can do a little of both. Half a dozen of one of a doctor, if we get the message, and listen to them too. They know what's going on.
Thank you.
Sally, can I ask a question?
Sure.
When you say they are amongst us, and I guess maybe I'm new here, so maybe you have complex before, what do you mean?
What five?
I am on mic. A2?
A2.
I think it's that we didn't hear the question.
Right, they're having a mic issue.
I'm good. When you say, they are amongst us, do you mean like aliens are here on Earth? Or like if you could clarify what you meant when you said that earlier?
I believe, and again, this is just my own from what I've experienced, yes, they are amongst us. And you often hear people say they are amongst us. Do they readily say who they are? Not necessarily. But I do believe, yes, they are amongst us. They're here. And contrary to what some people think, that they're here to destroy the earth or they're not here to help us, I truly believe that the majority of, and I do believe they are here, they're here to help us mend and help this planet. There is a whole, which I'm not going into, but there is a whole different side to this. But the majority of aliens that are walking amongst us are here to help us.
Thank you.
And you have said that the aliens came here initially for an entirely different purpose.
Going back thousands and thousands of years, and you being with me so that I have conveyed this story to you, and as my guide who was here also told me, they came originally, which was a different group of people from another planet, to save their own planet, without which we can do a show on. So they needed to come to Earth to get what we would call, very, very briefly, because it would take a whole hour or more to go into the story, to collect gold from this planet to take to their planet. If you think about it, and again, I'm not here to tell people understand and believe everything. I believe it. They came here and they mined the gold. But if you go back, let's go back 50 years, okay? Just 50. How far have we come? I was talking to my son about this, who doesn't often open up, but he's seeing it, he understands it, but doesn't talk to his mother about it, but that's fine, on the news. How have we become so aware? Our technology, and just let's go over the last 50 years, they have what they call, and you can go into Gaia, I have nothing, Gaia doesn't pay me anything, but just to let you know that they have a lot of programs on there, that they're coming forward with what they call reverse technology. They're getting it from spaceships. They're reversing that, and they're transmitting that information. We've come so far in the last 50 years. If you figure how far we've come in 50 years, in 100 years, can you imagine where we're being? Are we so advanced that we're able to do this without help? Maybe, but let's question that a little bit. Maybe we're getting a little help.
And I think that's been through centuries and centuries, you know, from ancient Egypt and the pyramids and the Mayans, as I brought up before, and to today, and within the last 50 years, all the technology that you've just been speaking about, and you know, cell phones and computers. You know, it wouldn't surprise me if that technology was given to us from another source. And
you know what is so, which I love, Steve, because in the beginning, you know, you had an open mind, which is very important. But I've led you to certain movies, like The Matrix, let's talk about, many where they give us little hints of what they're doing. They're not disclosing who they are, but how are so many people attracted. Let's use The Matrix, to which became a top bestseller, Star Trek, because in our psyche, in our memory, we know that, again, I'm going to say it's real. Disregard it if you don't believe it, but just keep an open mind. But it's real what they're showing us, but they'll only show us enough. They won't go beyond that. But if you have an open mind, it opens up a whole new world to us, which you did.
Sally, there was a couple of things that came up on that meeting last week in Washington. One of them is that they actually admitted to seeing materials that we don't have, or we're not, we just don't have them. It's things that they can't explain. Also, the mathematical logistics of making a right-hand turn at the speeds of some of these things that they saw are virtually impossible in our technology. You cannot make that kind of right-hand turn. It would take a giant sphere, like an angle, to be able to turn something going that fast in our lifetime with what we do. So my question is, it's there, they know it's there, we know it's there. People that have been, as you said, they've been touched by this, does it change who these people are? Like you? Is it?
Yes, for me it's validation, Freddie, but I don't expect everybody to understand that. They disclosing this, and I hear the word often, soft disclosure. We know, and the government knows, that we do not have the technology for some, and I mean, it's not me, there are many people coming forward, it's pilots and many credible people saying they've seen these unidentified flying objects. Not every one is real, it could be put out there, but the majority, let's say half and half, but even if there was 3, we know that this is different. We do not have that technology, as you're saying, to do that, or the speed that they go to. So if we need to open our minds that they're showing us what they're able to do. But they can't, we can't just say, okay, this is real, this is what's happening. We have to do it slowly. But for the ones that are taking note of this, and this is really important, as myself and as Steve is today, too, on the mainstream news, how do we explain this? How do we explain it?
How were you affected by that, by UFOs? Let's start there.
Well, for me personally, I knew nothing about this, at least so I thought I didn't know. But what they called astral projected, I didn't know, so I'm not making up anything. I couldn't have imagined this. I knew what was happening to me. I did not disclose, it's only on your show that I disclosed that I was being abducted. But I did disclose I was going to planets. On my book 18 years ago, I went to about 3 or 4 different planets. But I myself didn't really even understand what was happening. I knew there was such a thing as astral projection, so I was flying there. But I never seriously thought that maybe I'm on a spacecraft. But if viewers want to, I'm not even sure if my first book is out there right now, but I describe, I know what I was in. So now, many, many years later, I know that I was being taken to these places, not just what they call, and they proved astral projection. Many people understand that. I was being taken in the spacecraft, not the big ones, it was a small one. I know, and even today, I can explain in detail what I saw on those planets.
What happened when you were on this spacecraft?
They took me to many different places.
Did they talk to you? Did
Yes.
you see them?
Absolutely.
Did they look like us? Did
They
look
looked like
different?
us. The ones that I went to, although I don't believe that, there are many planets where they don't look like us, but the ones they showed me looked exactly. In fact, I even said that the houses and their homes look very similar to what we have on Earth here. I didn't know what I was doing. I just knew that I didn't even realize I was being abducted. I know what I saw in, quote, a so-called dream, but I can explain in detail. Not only can I explain it, Freddie, I can draw it. I'm drawing from centuries ago, which they were showing me things. I was not a believer 18 years ago, but today I'm 100% a believer. How does this happen to me?
How long were you gone?
How long was I gone? Well, I went 3 times a week for nearly a year into different planets. I know how long I was actually out there because I would wake up, as I documented in my book, never knowing that I was going to have a show on this. I was waking up at 3 in the morning. At 5 o'clock, at that time I was in sales and I had to get ready at 5 in the morning as my sales. I had to get there early for the first meeting. So I'm only gone, let's say, from 3 to 5. I documented this because my guide who understood this showed up. I've had so much validation. He said to me, document what you're seeing. He was there. He explained to me what I was seeing in my dream. This is not what we would say an everyday occurrence. So I'm writing down everything that I'm seeing. 2 hours, that's all. Maybe not even that long. But it was happening to me 3 times a week.
Was this a physical experience or a psychological experience?
Physical. I was there. I can explain in detail all that I saw on those planets. I went to top secret, which now I know, and I will come out with this, that I have attest. You can attest to this. Before AI even became that people are talking about AI, they were taking me around a planet, and I said to you and many other people at that time who had interest in what I was talking about, they were showing me AI. They told me it was top secret. I had to show what we would call a credit card to get in there. It may turn your viewers off, But I feel that, you know, for the amount of time that I have left here, and I often think, oh, maybe I shouldn't be doing this. But you know what? Something inside me is telling that I need to say what I have experienced, whether you believe it or not. I'm very near, and you know that, of saying, I don't want any more of this. I'm getting nowhere. But I can't stop, Freddie. I have to show this. I have to. And I met Russ, as you know, who has a show here, who calls me periodically 3 or 4 times a week to talk to me. Don't give up. I have to show people what I've experienced. It's not easy for me. I'm getting older. But I feel that I have some sort of responsibility now for the people that want to hear my story.
Well, the people that were in Washington last week, they don't have an answer either.
Well,
And-
there is no real answer. I didn't want to, please.
But the example is your story cannot be taken as, you know, she's on the go-go juice or there's something wrong with Sally. You can't do that anymore.
No.
Because these are 3 guys that went up there in front of the world and said, yeah, something is going on. And I'll be happy to tell you as much as we know when the cameras aren't rolling. I mean, that's exactly what happened in Washington. He says, I'm more than happy because you don't have the clearance. You got to have clearance to be able to hear what he has to tell you. So now, all of a sudden, we can't say this didn't happen. Now the only thing we can say is maybe what Sally's saying did happen.
And
Freddie,
Freddie,
just to
go ahead.
just say that tears are coming to my eyes because, you know, I know what I experienced, and this is from my heart. I knew that I might be ridiculed, but I know what happened to me, and this is giving me a platform here. I can't give up on this. You know that I'm nearly giving up because I feel that maybe people, but you know what? I am so nearly there to help. It's not ego. It's to show people what happened to me, and if they want to believe it, I know what I experienced. How do I remember a dream from 18 years ago? Every detail, everything that I saw on these different planets. I documented that in my first book, so I'm not making this whole story up. I have not read that first book for a long time because it's not as much in circulation. I have another one coming out. But I can tell you in detail what I saw on different planets. And people that know me, that believe in me, believe what has happened to me, including yourself, Steve, who did
Absolutely.
not many years ago.
And the mere fact that the government has seen the need to change from UFO to UAP, unidentified aerial phenomenon, from unidentified flying objects, suggests that the government absolutely believes that this is real.
And from the little part, and I believe that you will be now my partner with this without doubting it because you see me, just what I'm able to put out there. It's only a small amount. I am not well known, but there are people that are pilots, that work in the government, that are being whistleblowers because they're getting older. They have nothing to lose at this point. They're telling us what we have not been exposed to, but what is happening. So I want to play my part in this to tell you, and anybody that wants to call me or contact me, I'm happy to explain my experience. This is real to me. I was just an ordinary person having an ordinary life. Well, not quite as ordinary. I did come from London over here. I had some certain things, but this is my story, and it's very, very real.
Well, then I think that now that we're here, I think that the object of the game is to find out what story you're supposed to tell us. Because apparently, this has all happened when you were 18, and nothing has come forward on this subject matter because everybody who had went through this was afraid to be mocked.
Actually, it's 18 years ago, so not to give my age away.
Oh,
so
18 years,
that's
okay.
okay, because I probably was having it at the age of 18, and I used to talk to people because my parents used to bring in psychics. Who am I talking to? But over the years, I understand more, and I'm getting this sneezing again. Please carry on.
I think it would be beneficial that in another Monday show that we take your experiences, your travels, and really delve deep into your travels and tell your audience exactly what happened, what you saw, and what they might have done to you, as opposed to just show you. And I think that's a story for a whole other hour. And I think we're going to go to commercial now.
Just to clarify that, have you seen me sneeze the whole day?
No.
So there are forces. This is proof, okay, that I'm not going to say that don't necessarily want me to tell my story, but I'm going to say that. They don't want me to talk about it. Look what's happening to me. But I'm fine. They're not going to hurt me, but they're making me sneeze and cough.
Let's take a commercial.
We'll go for a commercial.
Let's take a commercial.
This world, this life, this illusion. What is going on, we ask? What is happening? Why not take time and see what is happening? This world as we know it, it seems so real and yet so far away from where we've come. Corruption, greed, anger, power, revenge. Please wake up. We can change what is around us. How, we may ask. Learn to go back to where we were. Then we will have the clues. Then we can change and go forward. Please take the time. Do not fall into the game which we have put upon ourselves. We can change. We can make a difference. We have the power, each and every one of us. Go in peace. Go with love. Go as one. Zena.
A true story, Call Me Zena, is the telling of Sally Bernard. Born in London, England at the end of the Second World War, she came to the U.S. in 1979. A mother of two and grandmother of four, she settled in Florida and worked in real estate. While going through a difficult time in her life, she was admitted into a hospital overnight in December of 2005. While settling back into her life, she began having vivid dreams and documenting them. By the third dream, a lady gave her a message to draw. With no artistic background or interest in art or history, Sally listened to her dreams and grabbed paper and crayons. Today, she has over 150 pieces of inspiring art and poetry. This book follows her journey and interpretations of these messages. She describes in detail how she's able to astral project and who she has met along her travels, including her spirit guides. This book will show you how anything is possible with an open mind. These events have changed Sally's life's direction, and this book will show you how to change yours. Purchase Call Me Zena on Amazon today.
You have been watching Call Me Zena with your host, Sally Bernard. As an artist, author, and spiritual experiencer, know that you could always seek me out for resources. Visit artbysallybernard.com today. Now, back to the show.
Hi, well, I'm over my sneezing fit and my coughing, so I'm able to talk. So
Yes, they wanted you to dummy up. Now, if you
Didn't
have any
work.
questions, please call in at 888-9944-995 Studio A, or you can contact Sally directly by sending her an email to callmezena, that's Zena with a Z, 1111@gmail.com.
Thank you, Steve, because
quite
you know,
welcome.
because I am in some sort of a trance, I'm not able to give this information. However, I can answer questions, but when it comes to myself,
Right.
it's hard, so that's...
You know, just before we went to break, I was suggesting that we take one of these shows and devote it entirely to what you experienced 3 times a week for a year.
Absolutely, 100%. And you can see that, Freddie, too, so you can see the well, what I have, I feel that I have something to offer to help people, whether they want to believe it or not. But then again, I do believe there's no coincidences. So the people that are watching my show, there is a reason they're watching this show, to keep an open mind. I don't expect everybody to believe everything, but listen to the news, listen to the disclosure. And if I can help people, I'm here to help people too.
You know, there are other people in the same position that you were in that didn't have a way of telling people. I think this is a good opportunity to bring them on your show as well.
It's a great platform, and I'm so happy that I found you and that I'm here to be able to expose as much as what's happened to me on the airways, let's say. We will go further with this, but for right now, I feel that the disclosure of what I'm doing is very, very important.
And I know you, experienced a lot of these abilities that you have from your childhood. But would you say that your psychic and medium and empath abilities have grown since your experiences traveling?
Absolutely. The last year, and I've been doing this show for nearly a year right now, I've become more in tune. Let's say we tune ourselves up. I find that I'm getting far more. I was able to do this, and I've done it for many years, but over the last year of going out onto the airways, I've become more confident. I've always been confident. I know what I've heard, but I have this feeling of expressing it more. Yes, I'm able to express it better than I could. Let's answer it that way.
Sally, how do they repopulate? Is it through human and alien interaction?
Okay, there's a couple of answers to that question, Dawn. Yes, if we go back, which could be a show, but maybe now that we're so into it, we'll do the show of many thousands of years ago when they did interact with who were here. They had, the aliens, it's actually in the Bible. If you read Genesis, which I'm not that familiar with the Bible, I have to be truthful with it, but Aldo used to point out Genesis, where they interacted, we hear these things. This happened thousands and thousands of years ago. But today, if you read just many things that just go over and try to interpret how you interpret, you'll see that they have interacted with us over thousands and thousands of years. But I think today, it's very important they're interacting with us. They want to let us know they're here, but they also know that it can cause complete chaos, so they're being very careful. And there are many people in the government that do know this, that do not want us to know. But on the flip side, there are many people that do want us to know. So it's up to us how much we go.
So is it safe to say that they were here before, they were here and created us?
Yes, part of that question is correct. Without going into the whole story from what I know, and there are many books on this that happened when they came down from another planet. And I think we had mentioned it. I also believe we mentioned it on Russ's show, and you also heard me talking to people. There are people that are aware of this today. They came thousands and thousands of years ago down to collect from this planet gold to take to their planet. But in the interim, and many thousands of years went by, they interacted with us too. So they are here. There are people that have this DNA.
Sally, hi, I'm Zach. I just had a question kind of relating to what you guys were just talking about. It involves religion. So I know you said aliens contribute a lot technology-wise, and you mentioned like with how Freddie just asked about how like if humans were made from aliens. I was wondering if you think, since there's so many different religions, but there is always a common like factor between all of them with some higher being. Do you think that higher being could be aliens, or do you think there's actually a higher being that the aliens themselves believe in too? Like, do they have their own religions, or are aliens the religion that we've been I guess praying to?
Well, there are aliens. When I say they're higher beings, they're coming, let's say, from another planet that's maybe 1,000 or 2,000 or 3,000 years ahead of us. So let's just say that their knowledge of what they have to convey to us here is much greater, because we've come all this way, which I think I just mentioned, in 50 years. So can you imagine someone that's just coming from a planet thousands of years ago before our planet, let's simplify this, of what they can convey to us here? They are here. Religion is a different story. They do talk about it in the Bible, but it's presented a little differently. As Aldo used to say to me, and there is a book out called Genesis Revisited. If you look at it from a different point of view, and I'm not taking God or anything out of anybody that's religious out of the equation, but just see what was happening, how they talk about it. I'm not that familiar with religion. I mean, I understand it, and I did read Genesis, and it makes a lot of sense to me.
But Sally, why the hiding? I get this. I think that Zach's question is remarkable. It just opened my eyes. That makes a whole lot of sense. But why the hiding? Why so much hiding? Because they want to see how we're going to react without interference?
Because we are comparatively a new planet. as far as I know. There are planets that are much, much more advanced to us. So they are conveying us technology that will help us grow. But if we don't understand this, the majority of people say that they think that it's just us. So if suddenly people from they show us through Star Trek and all these movies that come out, there are other planets, but if they suddenly showed us here exactly who they were that have come from thousands and thousands of years ago with their technology, just think for a minute, how are people going to react? They've got to do it gradually. And there is a force of people, without going into detail about it, but I was exposed to understanding this a little bit from my guide, who do not want us to even know that these people exist, okay? So they try to keep this all from us, because just to open up a little bit of people's minds, I believe, I don't expect other people to, that we are kind of controlled on this planet. I can talk more about it, but that's all I really want to say about it right now. We are controlled, and they don't want us to know that information. So how do we control us? They control, again, I'm not going to mention religion or politics, but through schools, I guess I am kind of, but just think about it yourselves. It doesn't matter. I'm not here to tell people exactly what I believe, because I don't expect everybody to believe it. But it would be in answer to your question, it would be mass hysteria. They've got to do it gradually, soft disclosure. And I think the time is ready now. There are kids that are coming into this planet have knowing of what I'm talking about, many of them today. You can see through their talents, through what they're able to do. We were what we would call old souls. They're coming in able to sing. They're coming in able to entertain. Maybe it happened years ago, but more and more of these kids are coming in with a lot of what I'm talking about. They have the knowledge. They need to open up themselves. They're not ready. We forget when we come in.
Sally, I have one more question. So, you've mentioned Star Trek, and, obviously we have all these sci-fi movies and stuff. So do you think there's like a line between things humans have imagined and what like actually happened to you, and kind of where that line is?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I wasn't really into all these movies until this started to happen to me. And I'm thinking and I'm seeing even The Matrix. I didn't understand it the first time that I watched this movie, but for anybody that's interested, please go in and listen to The Matrix. There's several of them. And Star Trek too. I was looking at it from a different point of view. But when I started to understand more, I'm really looking at this, that whoever wrote that, they're disclosing actually, but they're disclosing it through fiction, but they are disclosing it. A lot of this is our imagination, but our imagination becomes reality when you start to believe this.
Again, what is that other movie you introduced me to about we're living in a dream within a dream?
Right, that was Inception.
Inception.
That also is a very good movie for people to watch. We look at it a different way, I understand that, as we did when we just watched Oppenheimer. But when you know a little bit more about it, you begin to see a different side of this. Again, I can't tell you what directors or what movie people understand this, but they are trying to give us a little bit information, just enough to open our minds.
Well, aside from the movies, it's the real life Oppenheimer. It's the real life minds that bring these materials up. And some of us have that intelligence level above others that can actually make and split atoms. And I just get amazed that there are certain people who can sing and there are certain people who can do certain things differently and better than others. So, I mean, are we like a giant test tube of different beings?
That's a very good way to explain it, Freddie. That was a remarkable way. Yes, we're all at different levels. I apparently, through my guide, who told me, who was Aldo here, who came in to convey this information to me, and tell me that he knew me from previous lives, and I knew what I'm talking about. It came to me pretty quick when I began to open up. But we're all at different levels on our journey. But when we're ready to see this, we will start to see it. But not everybody's going to see it in the same way that I'm seeing it. Am I greater than anyone else? Absolutely no. And for anybody that knows me, I don't have the ego to say, oh, I'm so great, I have this information. But I opened up from what I knew from a lifetime, from many about 500-600 years ago. So I'm ready to convey what I know. I'm ready to explain. I don't expect, and neither can I do this for everybody to understand, but if even 20 people that are listening to this begin to say, well, I've experienced that, and begin to question, the word is question, begin to question what they're thinking and what they're feeling. There are other people, such as myself, that understands a little bit more, not a whole lot more, of course not, but just enough to open their minds a little bit.
Well, then it appears that we don't know the difference between life and death.
We don't.
Because you're telling me, and what I'm hearing is prior lives. I'm hearing that we were here in other situations. So again, I'm going to come back to the same question. Is it that we are a giant petri dish of lives?
We are. And when I first started to hear all this and understand it, I knew a couple of people that were more advanced than I was at that point. We actually are a giant experiment here on Earth. We've come from other planets, but this is a great planet. It's a difficult planet to learn. There are, as far as I know, this is what I have to just convey, there are other planets out there that are watching us. They do not want us to blow ourselves up, okay? We are an experiment. We are comparatively a new planet, and that can go back thousands of years because there are other planets that are much older. So let's say thousands and thousands of years. They are watching us. They're trying to convey this information to us. Not everybody is going to get it, just the few now, but it will in time. As long as we don't blow ourselves up, we will be able to understand more.
Hey, Sally, how's it going?
Hi, Josh.
I know you said I've been in touch with my spirit self, and I believe that I'm in touch with my spiritual self too. But can you tell if I'm from a different planet or not?
Okay.
Like, how would that work? How can I find my actual soul and not the body?
By going in and listening. Even dreams convey, and they did to me a tremendous amount, Josh. I believe that I believe we're all actually from other planets. Some of us are newer here on Earth. I've been on Earth, as far as I know, for a long, long time. I feel that you have too, okay? But you only are able to interpret better than me, but you can ask me the questions of where you came from, okay? But go, even at night, and Aldo, my guide, used to tell me this, say you want to go into more of your own background, research it. You can research it in what he used to call the superconsciousness. It's not our subconscious, it goes down a little further. It's called the superconscious that has the answers. You will get your own answers. As you're going to sleep, and I believe that you're very into this, and I've told you this before, Josh, this is not coincidental. Show me where I was from, or even better, show me what I need to do now, because that's what's important. We are here. We don't want to disregard the fact that we are here. Yes, we've come from different places, but we're here for a reason too. So it's now on this particular time. Ask them what you need to know. You will see it in your dreams. Okay. You will.
Because I wanted to get more in touch with the unknowing of things, because I've always wanted to talk to my spirit guide face to face, and every time I believe that there's something spiritual or supernatural, I always think of these horror-related things. I'm in my room, in my dark room at night, trying to meditate to myself, and then I'm like, oh, in the corner I can see a demon's face looking straight at me. How do I get that out of my head and say that it's just an angel looking at me instead?
That's exactly what you need to do, because there is good and bad. It's not that it's really bad or really good, because we need that balance. Mm-hmm. But you don't want that right now because you're trying to go on further in your journey. Yeah. So what you say, and it's as simple as this, because this is what my guide used to tell me, I don't want you here. I want the good part of what I need to know. It'll be there, but you don't need to see it at that particular time. Say, go away, I'm listening to someone else. Just like you would as we're having a conversation right now. Talk to them. It works. It absolutely works, because they know you know.
Yeah, because I feel like that's the scariest part, is just actually talking to them. Because
Please
when
talk.
They come out, that's the scariest thing.
You just say, go away, I don't need you. When I first started to astral project, I didn't know anything about it, but I was hitting the wall as I came back into my body and jerking. And Aldo said to me, it's as simple as saying, I don't want to do that. It's no different to being here. Talk to what you don't want to see and tell them to go away.
Oh, okay. Awesome. Thank you,
Easy.
Sally.
Do we change, Sally, in Josh's case, do we learn a lesson every time we come back?
It's up to us, Freddie. I know that I don't, apparently from the 15th century till now, and this is what my guide told me, I knew all this. It never leaves us, but it doesn't always come out in the next incarnation. It's up to us. We have free will. So I don't want to forget what I know now into the next incarnation. But whatever you have learned is in what he used to call, let's further down into our subconscious. But you need people, not me, there are many people that will do this to try to wake you. They call it waking up. It's literally waking up to what we knew.
I believe it's been said that the reason we come back is because we haven't learned everything we need to learn. And so we keep coming back to learn. And the only way we can go to a higher dimension and not come back to this earth as we know it is when we've learned all we were supposed to learn.
Yes, and the easiest way to actually interpret this is we're going to school. So if we're not ready just as school, we're not ready to go to the next class, so to speak, we won't go because we've got to learn everything. We can't graduate. Now that can take 1,000 years. Everybody is different. But when you finally begin to open up, and I know that much, and you'd heard me say that, but I've opened up the fact that I want to understand more. And I'm not alone. There are many people. Josh is a very good example of this.
When you said that you were astral projecting and you were being abducted by these aliens and all that, have they told you what Earth is for at all?
No, but the only thing that I have heard, which I'm aware of what I heard, is that we are an experiment and there are other planets watching us. So I can't tell you the future of what way this planet is going to go. But the only thing is I do want to tell people, oh my God, are we not going to be here? There's always something else waiting for us. This is, even if this planet should explode, there's other places that we're going to go to. I don't want to say that's the end. There's nothing. No, absolutely, I don't believe that.
It's funny because the pyramids, there's so many different other signs that have been left behind. And everybody's saying that our current system is broken with everything that's going on around us in the world. And everybody's looking for a sign of something to better. Maybe that's the reason why now is the time.
We're here on a very important time in our planet, Freddie, from what I hear and what I've been told. Okay, there are many, even the kids coming in today, the babies, are here to begin to wake us up. They may not even be aware of it, and I know we're coming to the end of the program. We'll do another one, of course, on this, and anybody that wants to call in, please do. But this is a very, very important time in our, let's say, history of this planet and of other planets, too.
So those in the know believe that there have been approximately 8 million people, such as yourself, that have been abducted. Do you think there will come a time when they reveal themselves to many more and we get to learn more than we know now?
I hope so. Not as even myself, I never came forward for, let's say, 16 years. I never even realized it. I knew and learned about astral projection, but I know today I was abducted. And hopefully, even just maybe 1 or 2 people listening to this show may have heard this story from someone else or to themselves. They will repeat it. And more people will open up to this. I think it's time for us to go. Okay, see you this time next week. Thank you, everybody, for your questions, and thank you, Steve, for sitting next to me today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Coincidence or not, it's time to trust your intuition and knowings. Thank you for joining me through this journey of self-discovery and awakening with the help of my spirit guides. I'm Sally Bernard, and you can find my book, artwork, and contact through artbysallybernard.com. Join us next week. This has been Call Me Zena.